Hi, this is Gary with MacMost Now. In today's episode, let's talk about traveling with your iPhone. So you can see here, I'm on a cruise. And when you're on a cruise, you're traveling to lots of different countries. In this case, I'm in Europe. So before I left home, I made sure that I took some actions that would prevent me from having a huge phone bill when I got home. So it's important to realize that if you live in the United States, your plan only covers you making phone calls and using data in the United States. If you go outside of the country, you find you can still use your phone, especially if you have one that has a GSM chip in it, like the at&t phones. But you're going to get charged a lot for these services. You can avoid some of these huge bills by setting some things up before you leave. So, for instance, I went into my at&t account online and I set up 3 different things. You see, there's 3 different types of things your phone does. It's voice, there's text messaging, and there's data. So I went into these and I made sure that I chose a European plan for each of them. Now, when you're trying to figure out which plan you want for each of those, it's probably important that you just choose at least the minimum plan. You see, what happens is if you don't choose any plan, say you choose no plan for text messaging, and say you send a text message, you're going to get charged the maximum for that. I think I saw prices of $1 or more. But if you choose at least the minimum plan, then you get a certain amount, like say 50 text messages right off the bat for the price of the plan, but then all of the overage charges, everything over those numbers of messages, will be a more reasonable rate. The same is true for data and for voice, like 30 minutes of voice at a minimum plan, but then every minute over, it's going to be much more reasonable if you had that minimum plan. It's going to be completely unreasonable if you chose no plan at all. So, you can choose a bigger plan, of course, if you know you can use a lot of data, you know you're going to send a lot of text messages, things like that. It's important to remember text messages do not include iMessages. iMessages are sent over the internet, they use data, they don't use the SMS systems of cell phone carriers. Another option, of course, is not to use anything at all, but it's very hard to do because if you're going to connect your phone at all to any cell towers anywhere where you travel, you're going to be using some data, and you could get a phone call or text message. Remember, you pay for receiving messages as well, so even getting a spam message is going to cost you a bunch if you have no plan. But if you do want to travel and not use any of this stuff, then you can put your iPhone into airplane mode. And that will shut everything off. And it's important you do that like on your flight over, because as soon as you land, it's going to connect, you may receive some emails, you may get some text messages that have been waiting, you're going to use some data just back and forth with different apps. So it's important to do that first. Now, one thing you can do is you can use airplane mode and then go into your settings and turn on Wi-Fi. And this will allow you to use your iPhone inside of, say, hotels, apartments you rent, even cruise ships like this, that have Wi-Fi, and you won't be connecting to any of the mobile carriers, so you won't rack up any charges there. It'll be like using an iPad or iPod Touch that just has Wi-Fi. Now, another thing you can do is you can limit your data usage. Go into your mail settings and make sure you've turned off push and fetch for everything, not just the main setting, but for each individual account, and set it to manual. This way, you'll only check for email when you actually go to the mail app. So you can only go to the mail app, say, if you have Wi-Fi, and never do that normally, and then you won't just suddenly get email as you're traveling around and have to pay for that bandwidth. You can also go into your settings and turn off messaging completely. And this won't turn off iMessage, it'll just turn off using the mobile carrier messaging, which will save you some money there. But it's really risky. I mean, you turn all this stuff off, you don't buy any additional plans, and for just a few minutes, you accidentally maybe, or just on purpose to make a single emergency call, turn these things on, and you can get a bunch of waiting text messages, you can get a bunch of data back and forth with your apps, and receive a bunch of phone calls, or make a phone call, and you can easily go over this stuff. And that's how people end up with these nightmare bills. So it's almost just the kind of thing you have to do if you plan on using your iPhone at all overseas, is at least get that minimum plan for each of these 3. And then have to deal with at least a somewhat large charge, but avoid the possibility of a massive charge when you get home. And then you want to watch out too, because the plan you buy, say like I bought the European plan, which works for all the countries I've visited. However, the cruise ship has cellular here that is not included in that plan. So a few times my phone has tried to connect and I've had to turn on airplane mode really quickly so it doesn't connect to the ship's cellular, which would cost, it said, $10 a meg. So I hope you found these travel tips with your iPhone useful. It's always best that you go onto your website for your carrier and check and see what they've got there. Call them if you have any questions. Just make sure you have it all set up before you leave. And then, of course, remember to shut all this stuff off when you get home so that you don't continue to get billed for it month after month. Till next time, this is Gary with MacMost Now. If you found this video useful, there's one thing you can do for me in return. It won't cost you anything and it'll just take you a few seconds. If you're not already at MacMost.com, go there and then look for the video you just watched and go to that page. Underneath the video you'll see a bunch of different links that help you share the video with friends. Take a second to click the like button. This sends a signal out to the rest of the internet that the video is worth watching. Thanks.